And we are live. Happy Friday, everybody.
Hi, happy Friday.
Hey.
I am, welcome to the Back Catalog Listening Party. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Ihrig. Joining me on speakerphone today is our co-host, Ellen Stanley. I don't know, Ellen, if you can hear us, you could say hello. I don't think she can hear us.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can. Fantastic. We've made that work. And joining us from Nashville, Tennessee, we have Sav and Katie from the Accidentals.
Howdy.
So great to have you here, and I think people were ready for Friday. I know I certainly am ready for a happy hour beverage after the last 10 minutes of technical troubleshooting. But our good friend Chris is here, excited for the show, enjoying a beer made by Udapils Brewing. Delicious. And our friend Connie in Richfield. Hey, Connie, nice to see you. Alan down in Texas. Happy fry, everybody. It's teeny time. Well, it sounds like Alan maybe has already started. Very good. Joni, hey, Joni, we're excited to have you here. Our friend Gary and Joe in South Minneapolis. Happy Friday, and happy Friday to you too, and welcome to the show. This is the program where every Friday, Ellen and I sit down with some of our favorite artists, and we listen to older records that aren't being actively promoted anymore, albums that have been road tested, have been out there, mean something to people, and we try to provide a little bit of those liner notes, that you don't really get anymore, like what the stories behind the songs and the recording and all of those things. And we're so excited to have you both here joining us today. We're going to listen to your 2021 release, Vessel. That's the album we have on tap?
Yeah, thank you so
Excellent.
much for having us here, by the way. We appreciate it.
We are so excited. Now, a lot of folks tuning in are probably maybe be coming from some of your channels, and some of our fans as well will know your name and know of all your wonderful music. But for those who are new to what you do, could you give just the 50,000 foot overview of the band, where you started, how you got together, and what led up to this album? Just kind of something to give context to the record we're going to listen to today.
Okay, so the elevator pitch. Got
The
it.
elevator pitch. You got it.
So we're a female-fronted, nationally and internationally touring trio called the Accidentals. I'm Sav.
I'm Katie.
We met in high school orchestra playing violin and cello in the Alternative Styles for Strings group that stayed after school and covered Led Zeppelin arrangements. It was through that we discovered a mutual love of the same bands. We became a band. It was very casual at first, and then it just kind of zoomed forward, and we've been together now for 11 years. Our
nice.
drummer Michael, my partner's bringing us a cheese board because we forgot that it's a happy hour.
Say hi to
Oh
Jake.
my goodness.
Brought us some snacks.
That is
Thank you so
fantastic.
much.
I'm going to text my partner right now and see if she can bring me something like that.
The game here.
Nice.
Beautiful.
So we added our drummer Michael 3 years in, and Kate and I play multiple instruments. We both play guitar and bass. She plays cello. I play electric violin and mandolin too. And we've been writing songs. The two of us write all the songs for the band. We come together as a three-piece and arrange, and then all three of us are engineers and have recorded our last 4 projects, including the majority of our album Vessel, which we're going to talk about.
Yeah, and a lot of time on the road, I think, is kind of what led into Vessel. Vessel, it came out in 2021, but it feels like it came out decades ago. For us, it was a really long process putting all the songs together, and all the songs we'd played for years, probably since our album Odyssey came out in 2017. We were already doing a lot of the Vessel songs, and just kind of continued to get delayed. And so we learned a lot on this record about rearranging and killing your darlings and how to home record and all that sort of stuff. So it's really emotional album that really kind of sums up, I think, our very early 20s.
Right on. And this kind of came together during the lockdown. Is that right? Like it kind of forced all of that upon you. Suddenly you're going to just have to get it together and get something out.
Yeah. Well, our original plan was to take it to Tucker Martine, who's this great producer out in Portland, Oregon. And we'd already done like 3 songs with him. And we had done 2 songs with John Congleton. So our intention was just to go ahead and finish out the record in the West Coast. And literally the same week we were supposed to fly out to Portland, that's when the world shut down. So we had to decide, first of all, if we wanted to still go to Portland. And then we decided ultimately not to, because we had no idea how severe it was going to be, how long it was going to last. So we ended up going back to Michigan, camped out for a couple weeks, and then realized it was not going to end anytime soon, at which point we took everything out of the trailer and we built a studio in my attic. And I'm mostly involved taking like cardboard boxes of CDs and building them into like partition walls and hanging blankets over them. As you can see, blankets are highly innovative technology that we use as soundproof barriers.
Yeah. Original absorption. Right there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like everybody else, you had no idea how long it was gonna last, and there was probably no way to really get your hands on any other gear other than what you had, the cardboard boxes and the blankets. I just remember things being kind of difficult to arrange. There's
a lot of backwarded stuff for sure, but we have sponsors like Shure Microphones and Boss Roland. We needed a really good interface, so Boss Roland sent us one. And we still use it today. But all the other stuff, like from sponsors, we had a pretty good arsenal of gear to work with at that point.
Nice. So you were ready for this.
I wouldn't go that far.
Yeah. Physically, we had what we needed, but were we mentally equipped?
Emotionally equipped? Absolutely not.
And yes, and have you come out the other side a little different, I imagine, like everybody else, which is part of the reason I'm really excited we get to do this record or listen to this record, because I feel like it's kind of a unique time and place that this stuff happened. So I'll look forward to hearing more about the recording of it and the stories. But I think, like everyone else, we just want to get right to the music and hear what you were recording at that time. So the first track that we have queued up is a tune called "Go Getter." Is there anything you want to say about this tune before we dive in?
Yeah, this song, I wrote it during a really intense period of writer's block. I wrote a couple songs when I came out of it, because basically a friend of mine, a childhood friend, had passed away, and this is a trigger warning, of suicide. And so I didn't have any closure. And then right after that, we went into the pandemic. So I was trying to find a way to summarize the feelings and find closure. And so I ended up writing this song. And I like to tell people that songwriting is cheaper than therapy. So this is my form of therapy.
All right, let's give it a listen. This is the Accidentals' "Go Getter" here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Grief's a sheet of tinfoil that I crush inside of me. A story to be told in every fold and every crease, smoothing out the edges, cutting corners piece by piece, back and belly breathe. Anger is a sickness and it's boiling in my blood, so I seethe into the void that's left behind with every thud. And the door that leads to healing, when I come close it swings shut. Well, I've had enough. Try to give it time. Life will teach you how to live. You just have to live it for a while. Ho, ho, pull it together. Ho, ho, shake off the pressure. Oh, sometimes you gotta burn it down to build it better. Love it or hate it, it's now or never. You gotta be a go-getter. Sorrow took you over like a cloud above your house. Though you built it for your burdens, more were coming unannounced. of your mind. With your foot pressed to the pedal, you decided it was time. What did you leave behind? Try to give it time. Life will teach you how to live. You just have to live it for a while.
With Go Getter. And Accidentals are joining us today on the back catalog listening party. And that was Go Getter from their 2021 album Vessel. And so many folks enjoying the music and joining us today. And also Scott commenting on the sweet tattoo as well. Yeah, and Sal and Wiley and Magoo 59. Thank you all for joining us. If you're new to this show, this is the show where we invite our favorite guest artists to revisit old records. And today the Accidentals are joining us. And Tony in our hometown of Minneapolis. I'm in California remotely, hence the In-N-Out burger cup that I'm enjoying.
Nice.
You let me know what you are, if you're having a snack like the Accidentals are, their sweet charcuterie board. Let us know if you're drinking or having a snack on this Friday, and throw your comments, questions in. We want to get to as many as I can. And one thing I want to ask is on that song, Go Getter, tell us a little bit about the instrumentation on that. Some of those plucky notes, I'm guessing, were some of your stringed instruments, but I'd love to know more about what we're hearing on the track.
Yeah. So I wrote the song on standard mandolin, which is tuned exactly like a violin, which I also play. But so yeah, I was kind of able to write that on there. I usually don't have a very clear idea of what drums are going to sound like when I write songs, which I think is one thing that separates our writing style quite a bit. I have no concept of drums. They're just shapes to me. So when I wrote it, like, I wasn't really thinking about production wise, where we wanted to go with it, which made it like kind of harder to get the song right in the studio. I think we tried making several different tempo maps, and I think this is one of the songs where we just eventually decided not to use a metronome. Either that, or sometimes we'll go through and make tempo maps where like the verses are slower than the choruses, or vice versa.
Yeah, we definitely, I think, had to do that in the halftime choruses. Those were hard to get that timing right.
Mm-hmm. But then, so we added. First thing we did was like fundamentally start with what we perform it as a trio, which is me on standard mandolin, Katie on electric cello, and Michael on drums, and then the 3-part harmonies. So that's typically how we perform live. what we realized is that there was kind of like, while it works live, there was some body missing on the actual record. So then I ended up getting an octave mandolin, which is the same thing except an octave lower. So that helped build out some of the body of the sound. There's actually no acoustic guitar on that song at all because
Wow.
it just didn't work.
It's doing a little bit of color part, and that's all. So the mandolin is like the body. And the one thing I was like really excited about was this was like the first song that I really, this and a single that we did in the home studio a few months prior, I was starting to experiment with recording the electric cello as a bass line. So the verses of that song have no bass. That's like me playing my 5-string electric cello, and like I spent so long like trying to decide like how to amp it or put it through preamp or what, and like that sound, like the best clearest sound was like just direct to get all the low end, and then Sav went in on the choruses and added a low electric bass so that the range gets a little bit lower.
It
on
drops
the choruses.
there, yeah.
And that's Sav like shredding the guitar. There's an electric guitar solo that we spent ages working on the tone. We must have just done that like 20-second guitar solo like a billion different ways.
Yeah, it was definitely like I had the part down, but we were still like, one of the biggest learning curves for us recording was figuring out tones for electric guitars, because we just don't really, I personally almost never play it unless I'm in the studio. That's when I really whip it out. But Katie is like the electric guitar player for the band, and we typically, we have like certain tones, but we only really use it for like maybe 4 or 5 songs max. So trying to find tones was like a huge learning curve for us, and like miking the amp was another huge aspect of it. But eventually we got it down, and one of the last things we added was that little riff that you hear, the little plucky riff. That came, I have like this, I call them fever dream ideas, where like I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, that's what we need to do. And then I'll immediately fall back asleep. I swear I've had like fever dream ideas for like album covers and like for production ideas and scoring ideas. And this was just one of them where like I woke up and I was like, that's the riff we need to add in because we're missing it. And so the next day I cut it like on electric guitar, and we were like, that's not the right timbre, let's get it on like a plucked violin. So they're actually both doing it together, but the violin is more prominent.
Very cool. Very cool. And yeah, the production is amazing. I can't believe what you were able to accomplish given the circumstances and given that a lot of this was new. I mean, people spend a whole lifetime on electric guitar tones, like people devote their whole, like that's their whole thing, right? To the tones that I get, but it sounded like you've been doing it for a long, long time. So kudos to you on a really great sounding record.
Thanks. I think our secret weapon is probably Mills Logan, our mixing engineer. He's pretty incredible, and he did a huge amount of legwork, like just like he would go back and revise edits for us and make sure everything was coming through really well. We
would give him like, he's amazing at what he does, but Vessel was kind of like our beginning project with him, and we had never met him face to face, right? Because at that point we were quarantined in Michigan, he lived in Nashville, and so we would just send him like notes and notes and be like, okay, so this might not be what you're used to, but it's like a pop rock song with like a mandolin and electric cello
and no acoustic guitar.
So he was very patient with us while we went back and forth with lots of notes.
Yeah.
Well, and just to give folks who are watching here an idea of what you're dealing with here, one of the pictures that they sent was, I don't know if this wasn't the plucked part here, but we're looking at miking a fiddle in a bathroom in a bathtub. Can you tell us a little bit about the scene here that we're looking at?
Yes. First of all, huge shout out to Shure microphones. Those are two, either 141s or 137s. I can't quite tell, but they're great for miking the violin. We use them to this day.
KSM line.
They're so great.
They're really good.
But yeah, so I'm in the shower. This is my old shower in the attic. We thought we were trying to get, this is for a different song called Fractals. We were really trying to get like a specific sound out of the acoustic violin that sounded almost electric, so you couldn't quite tell the difference. And we thought maybe because there's so many bouncing like areas of like, kind of rigid walling, we thought maybe that would elicit the sound. Eventually we didn't use it, but we did try it. And we tried some other microphones in there too. And just kind of, that was a lot of what we did, was just shootouts in different places. I think there's some string parts we did in my parents' living room because it was kind of a tall ceiling area with lots of windows, and it ended up having like this natural reverb that we really liked. And you can hear birdsong in the background if you listen closely, because there's like a huge swell of them going by.
Just use what you got.
Yeah.
When it comes down to this, that's great. And speaking of bird's eye, here I see, or birds, I see. I really love Bird's Eye View, so haunting and hypnotic from
Thank you.
from Wiley, and he initially found you through all the quarantine sessions, and this kind of format that we're doing right here is, you're no stranger to this. This was kind of your lifeline, wasn't it, at the beginning of that?
Yeah.
Kind of...
I ended up like I think both of us are type A personalities. Like towards the beginning of this, when we lost touring as like our full-time job, that was something that we did for 8 years solid, like 250 days a year. So to not tour, we were kind of had all this excess energy and we're losing our minds, and also wanted to play shows and play music. So we ended up investigating different live streaming platforms and derived a lot of information, but realized that none of it was really in one spot. So I ended up writing like a 40-page manual that was originally just for OBS, but then it became like so much more. And we were doing panels for the Recording Academy and the Grammys and Folk Alliance International. I did some consultations for some venues. I was doing like hundreds of consultations for artists every week. So it was a crazy time.
Well, it was so important for so many of us to be able to still connect. That was the big impetus for Ellen and I to do this, was just to reconnect. And it's really cool that we can still do that, even though we can see each other in person now. This provides us an opportunity every week to hang out with you. So if you're out there hanging out, listening to this, let us know you're there. It's really about the comments. So hop in the comments, ask your questions for Sav and Katie. And yeah, let's dig into a little bit more music here while you do that. The next tune we have lined up is a tune called Roller Coaster. Would you like to speak on that before we listen?
Yeah, this was, well, I think just go into it, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. I don't know if there's any.
This is classic
Context,
Katie. She always tells a story after the song.
I have context for Slow and Steady. This one, let's do it.
Well, that's all right. Let's give it a listen, then we're going to talk about it. This is the Accidentals with Roller Coaster here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
I woke up on a roller coaster, heart inside my head, chest was from bed. In a moment, thought my world was over. Did I make it up? Was I really at the pinnacle? So I stepped right through it, hit the pavement, kept on running as I hit free. Thoughts I hit free. Now the wave is crashing down, 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 down. Now the wave is crashing down. When I woke up, I was in the air, suspended in the days, with creases on my face. In my pocket, felt around for crumbs. The feed the gnawing hunger. I started sucking on my thumbs. So I stepped right through it, hit the pavement, kept on running as I hit free. Thoughts I hit free. Now the wave is crashing down, 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 down. Now the wave is crashing down. I notice patterns more than ever. Every truck stop, subway, sandwich, every midnight motel I be. Every time I wash my face off, every time I text I'm sorry. Every prepossessing person, every grinding repetition, every time I put my face on. And
All right, the Accidentals with Roller Coaster from their 2021 album Vessel. And the Accidentals joining us today on the Back Catalog Listening Party on this show where we revisit old records with old friends and new friends. And thanks for joining us today on the show wherever you may be tuned in from. I'm joining remotely from California today, so if there's any weird lags or anything on the technical end, I apologize, but I'm so happy to be here. I didn't want to miss this show with Katie and Sav joining us from the Accidentals, and Tony, of course, in Minneapolis, holding down the technical fort.
I'm trying.
And want to thank all the folks for tuning in. Remember to post your questions and comments. Folks loving that last song. And we have a couple questions that I wanted to make sure we got to. And one of them was the guitar part on Damascus Blades. Flipping Physics, which, by the way, great handle. I'm guessing that's not your given name, but it's a great one. Asking about if it was originally a finger exercise and where did that come from. I don't know if it's one of those fever dreams you were talking about, but wanted to know. It's so difficult to play.
Yeah, so it might be difficult to play if you've tuned the entire guitar down to D standard. I would recommend only tuning down the E string, the bottom E string, to a low D, and then playing it like that. I've heard some comments. People think it's in D standard, but it is not. I just tuned it down to create a power chord. And I remember just sitting in my laundry room at the time because it was just, I was waiting on a load of laundry to be done, and I had my guitar. And I ended up just kind of working with this finger style exercise. It didn't come from like practicing metal or anything, but I was really influenced by, we had just been on the road with Keller Williams, who's like this great finger style jam guitar player and multi-instrumentalist. And we were his backup band for a couple shows called the Keller Williams Accident, which is great. Nice. But at the time, it was my first time really touring with him. So I came home and was kind of trying to pick up on some of the hammer-on style that he was doing, and that song came out of it. So,
right on. I thought I heard maybe just a little flutter of fingerstyle at the end of that last tune too. So that makes me think about just the instrumentation in general on this record, and knowing that you're typically touring as a trio. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you translate, these tunes to stage.
Yeah, this Roller Coaster, the one we just heard in particular, was a big challenge to do for the stage show.
It's still a challenge to do for the stage show.
I mean, I'll start at the end. Like, when this album came out in 2021, like we had waited and waited because we wanted to do a full tour, so we were trying to get through 2020 and most of 2021. And so we had a friend, Patty Pershela, originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan. We just called her up. She fronts an amazing blues rock trio, and she plays bass and guitar and can like sing like crazy. Yeah. And so Patty did the whole album release tour with us, playing bass and electric guitar. So
nice.
The thing about Roller Coaster is, I remember I was listening to a Philly band. They're called Hopalong, and they have this song called How Simple, which is really ironic because I was like really overthinking everything. But their song How Simple is like beautifully layered arrangements. And so sometimes the bass is driving the song, sometimes the acoustic drives the song, sometimes the electric drives, sometimes the drum, and everything weaves in and out. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there's the map.
Okay, so short story. We re-recorded a few times to try and get that weaving effect. I remember we recorded it at our friend Nate Butler's studio, Nimblewit, in is the name of it, in Goshen, Indiana. There's Nate at the board.
There's me on bass with my weird hair. I was growing out a pixie cut at the time.
This was probably we recorded it maybe in 2018, like off of our album Odyssey, and we were like, okay, we got a couple songs ready for Vessel, like let's finish it up. And so we recorded Roller Coaster, and then we took a break and playing a bunch of shows, and then we came back, and I just remember listening to the original recording, and I was just like almost in tears because we were trying to finish Vessel, and I was like, guys, this recording, it sounds like really stiff, and like my singing is, you can't hear, like I was not very good at enunciating very well in the recording. It was really like lazy. So I was like ready to cry. I was like, I think we need to re-record it, even though it felt like we were, up against a wall. But So I sat down and took out some crayons. I was at my parents' house and made that arrangement map.
That's amazing.
So hard to get what was in my head onto paper, and like I do a lot of arranging like with color for some reason. Whatever.
I was going to
reason,
ask if the colors represented intensity or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's probably where that red comes in. You know, in the like the hits are really like the heart of the bleeding heart of the song.
We still use this technique, by the way. If it serves anybody well, this is quite. I mean, I'm a very visual person, and I was having a hard time conceptualizing the song until Katie brought this map, and I was like, "Oh, I see now what we're going for."
Yeah, it was really weird. So playing it live, for a while, I had this Fender baritone guitar, and I wanted to play a Barry because it's got a little bit lower range, and I wanted to do bass parts and electric guitar parts, and then have Sav play the acoustic guitar rhythm, and that worked. But Fender was like, "All we have is this like heavy metal guitar. It's got all the hardware is black. Like, are you cool with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, of course." And then when Patty came along, it really like opened us up, so I didn't have to do the low end and the high end on the guitar. Like,
right, and I didn't have to play. So what we do live now with Patty is I play mandolin. I switch to violin right before the hits, like on the breakdown. I'll just flip the mandolin over on my back in the middle of the song and pick up the violin and start playing those parts. And then Kate plays. You play electric guitar.
I'm playing electric. I like mostly doing rhythm with like a little bit of like high color stuff, and then Patty is doing the bass.
The bass line that Kate and I wrote. And then Michael's on drums.
And then we like sing some of the string parts in the breakdown.
Yeah.
Nice. Just use your voices. Why not? That is amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that story. And for those of you who are just listening today, we will share these photos if that's all right with the band.
Yeah.
So you can see this really cool arrangement here with a heat map of intensity. I love that. I'm totally going to steal that for my next band rehearsal. I think we're about the halfway mark of the show, and I think it's a good time to let people know that they can purchase this record, and it sounds amazing. Again, it's so hard to believe this wasn't done in a giant, multi-million-dollar studio somewhere, but it really is all about what's between the headphones and between the ears, and it really shows. If you're interested in purchasing this record, I highly recommend you get. Is this still available in physical form?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can go to theaccidentals.music.com and pick everything up.
Yeah, we got vinyl too.
Oh, vinyl. Man,
Yeah,
that
vinyl.
would be even better. Head on over to theaccidentalsmusic.com and pick up the high-resolution versions because it sounds really good. And it goes a really long way to show the band how much you appreciate what they're doing. And, we always say one CD is like, 7 years of streaming? So it also helps them fill their guesting because we are back on the road, traveling around. What are you guys doing these days? What's on tap? What you got? Anything big you want to talk about before we move into the next section?
Yeah, Kate and I are working on a couple of records simultaneously right now, which is insane. But one of them is Timeout 3. Timeout's like a series that we do where we have a lot of co-writes with people who inspired us to become writers in the first place. And we're really honored to write with these people, such as Beth Nielsen Chapman, Kim Ritchie, Tom Paxton, John Besner, a lot more. And so we've already put out 2 different Timeout sessions, and we're working on the 3rd one right now, and we're doing a tour in March with Gary Burr, Georgia Middleman, and Mary Bragg all throughout the Midwest. So that's happening, and we're also working on a covers album. That's been a long-term project. We did a series called Play Your Paragon on our YouTube right before the pandemic, where we were covering a different song by a different female artist who inspired us every Wednesday. We came up with like 20 songs, and then we decided to add a couple more to this record. So we are hard at work making that record happen and getting out there. So
nice. And I'm sure everyone can learn more at your website as well. theaccidentalsmusic.com. Sign up. I'm sure you have an email newsletter. I know you have a Patreon. There's multiple ways that you can connect with the band, including hopping in the comments. And so many people have. Bob is really excited about your creativity.
Bob's one of our patrons.
Jeffrey says, "Hey, y'all."
another patron.
And it looks like we have confirmation that vinyl does rule. And Magoo59 has an autographed copy, which is awesome. And New Roots Nashville says, can't wait for this Time Out tour. And I agree. So if you're interested in learning more about what they are up to, check out theaccidentalsmusic.com. All right. And I think we need to get into more of this music because this hour is flying by.
Yes.
Hey, it's Ellen. So, I mean, it's no mystery that Ellen is just tuning in on a telephone here, and it's a miracle that you're even here. Ellen, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm just really loving this conversation and this music. So, and I hope, I know all of you out there are too. So I just want to echo Tony's sentiments that you want to pick up this album and tip them well. But right now I want to dig into more music too. So
right on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we got the next song we have queued up is Wildfire. Anything you want to say about that one before we jump in?
Yeah, this was a song we wrote with Kim Ritchie, who I looked up to since I was 5 years old, so it was really surreal.
Nice.
And the song last year, or 2 years ago now, in 2021, it hit #1 on folk radio charts. So we're really excited about that.
Wow, congrats on that.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's give it a spin. This is The Accidentals with Wildfire here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
Ivy climbs the walls and nestles in the brick. Sparrow builds a nest above the front door. The newest heartaches on the radio again. No one's listening anymore. On Independence Day we were driving through the hills. We were on our way to Bozeman. The reds and blues of fireworks in backyards lit the sky. We were so much greener then. Who knew we were drunk on borrowed time, waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were waiting on a wildfire? In late September, we had just moved into town. We were on a mission, lost and broke. Just as all the pieces started falling into place, all our plans went up in smoke. Who knew we were drunk on borrowed time, waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were waiting on a wildfire? Ivy climbs the walls and nestles in the brick. Sparrow builds a nest above the front door. And over time the wildflowers find a way to bloom where only ashes were before. Who knew we were drunk on borrowed time, waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were waiting on a wildfire? Who knew we were
Yeah, the Accidentals with Wildfire here on the back catalog listening party. We just listened to another track off of their 2021 release, Vessel. And man, really, really, people loving that one. One of your best, says Bob, and swaying to the subtle sounds. And I mean, I was thinking during this song something that came across as in another comment from our friend Joni here. When I was listening to the strings and the way that you kind of incorporate them in these genres that, you know, they maybe you're taking elements from your, you know, from different backgrounds and kind of melding them together. And Joni asks about your influences, and I also would love to know a little bit about, you know, like the what kind of inspired some of this, you know, kind of eclectic string meets rock meets folk kind of sound that you guys have.
Man, I feel like we had a playlist going at one point of just like songs that we were referencing tones off of, or like little things off of. But like as far as like overall influences for the band, it's kind of all over.
I would say that's largely due in part to like our families and growing up in Michigan. Both of us come from musical families, and we met in orchestra, so we had a lot of different interests in like covering weird songs on violin and cello. And we would bond by being like, hey, do you know this indie band? Do you know this indie band? But for this record, like the first song, Go Getter, we referenced Punch
Miracles,
Brothers.
Yeah, Punch Brothers and Miracles of Modern Science were like the two that we were referencing, which Miracles of Modern Science, band, they haven't put anything out since 2015, but I am like rooting for them. Like they're awesome.
And like for this song, you know, like we love Kim Ritchie, who was co-written with like her songs, and her albums are insane. We love like songwriters like Brandi Carlile and Joni Mitchell, and then Roller Coaster was like a lot of rock influence. Like really big fans of that band Hopalong, and artists who use strings in weird ways like Andrew Bird.
I think like also we do this, at least I do this thing too, where like I genre hop. So I'll do like a deep dive into one genre. Like last week was country that borders on parody, like country that you're not sure if it's really written as like a shrew song or if it was written to be funny.
Is that for real?
Oh yeah, like Corn by Blake Shelton is probably the best example of that. So I encourage people to check that song out.
Sometimes it's a fine line between whether it's serious or not, and sometimes a little bit of both. I think that's some of the genius of some of that stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna write like a whole open essay on that song. It's worth it. Yeah, but it's all over the place, I would say.
Right on. And when you guys were learning the string instruments, did you have kind of like classical idols? Was there anything like that, or yes, no?
Well, we started when we were like 11 years old in like a public school environment. You know, like there's a local music company in Traverse City called Marshall Music that, and I used to volunteer to do this when I got older. But like you'd bring instruments to schools and let kids try them out. And back when we were doing it, they used to score you on your first ever attempt. So
that's no good.
No. So when I tried percussion, they just wrote poor on a piece of paper. No. Violin, I got decent. So that's why I play violin. But
yeah, I think we were really drawn to weird stuff. Like I think one of my, and I'm not like super well versed in the classical realm, but there's a modern classical composer who we were introduced to in like middle school. We started listening to. Her name's Caroline Shaw.
Oh,
she
yeah.
plays viola, but she did a great piece for voice, partita for however many voices, and that like blew my mind. So listening like just to outliers.
I think we have an appreciation for classical, but we don't quite fit in that mold.
Right. Well, thank goodness. You know, I mean, that's how this it's how this music evolves. Everything kind of interconnects, and I love to hear that. You know, it was another music in the school situation, because as we've seen time and time again in a couple of years of doing the show, it really makes a difference when kids get exposed to music when they're young. So just a little plug for anybody out there fighting for that. And I thought I read on your website actually that that you actually started a nonprofit kind of during the pandemic times to kind of address this need. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah, it's called Play It Forward Again and Again. And it's like a really long time project and passion of ours, because when we started touring, and we do lots of workshops in schools, so sometimes like a teacher will want us to talk about songwriting or being fearless and trying to improvise on your classical instrument, or alternative styles and like careers in the industry. And we met a lot of students who were not able to afford instruments, especially strings are really expensive instrument to play with maintenance and lessons and everything. So so play it forward again and again is completely dedicated to getting more musicians to do workshops and more instruments in the hands of young musicians.
That is so awesome. I'm sure that people could learn more about that at your website as well, theaccidentalsmusic.com. Check it out, folks. It's so important. That's how we get bands like the Accidentals, right? You got to get them young, and that's so wonderful that that you're kind of paying it forward that way. But, you know, I'm looking at the time here, and I definitely want to see if we can squeeze in both the final two songs. So cool. I'm gonna jump right into Slow and Steady. Is there anything you want to say about this one before we listen?
The only thing I wanted to say beforehand was that there's an effect in the beginning that we had the song almost completely recorded, and then Michael went out into our driveway and he did a voice memo of my partner Brennan driving his car, and so there's like a whoosh, and that's just us like speeding in our like neighborhood in the middle of the woods.
Man, I wish we could show the music video for this song, just because that's for both Go Getter and Slow and Steady. Those are like our pride and joy music videos. We spent so much work and time and energy making them hilarious and great. So check out the music video for this one too.
Yeah. So really if you want to just check out, you can check out the Accidentals website that we just posted, but we'll also put the show notes together at backcatalog.listeningparty.com /145, episode 145. We'll have these awesome images and links to those music videos. I know I can't wait to check it out. But first, let's give a listen to the song. This is Slow and Steady, the Accidentals here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
The sun has broke across the sky. Soft like a yoke, burning my eyes. Put on the gas, am I too late? She's still at home, I'm still halfway. In 3 hours I'll be by her side. Say hello before she says goodbye. Slow and steady, you still have time, you still have time. Hold on for me, you still have time, you still have time. Hands on the wheel, the minutes creep, knuckles like steel. I'm in too deep, I can't admit I'm not that strong. I'll process it after she's gone. In 2 hours I'll be by her side. Say hello before she says goodbye. Slow and steady, you still have time, you still have time. Hold on for me, you still have time, you still have time. Clock will spat me, but I'll never quit. Even if the wheels fall flat, even if I have to sprint, I said I'd be there, and I meant it. Slow and steady, you still have time, you still have time. Hold on for me, you still have time, you
yeah, the accidental, slow and steady here on the back catalog listening party. Fantastic, and people digging that, and Magoo here pointing out that you're still digging your own music too, which is great. Yeah, man, that's great. And you'd mentioned the music video, and I'm pretty sure there was a couple pictures that you sent along here that were related to it.
Yes.
Is this one of those?
Oh no. Okay, so this song "Slow and Steady," it's about me visiting my childhood dog Maggie. When I was driving through a blizzard after tour was over, and I was actually trying to get home because she was really sick, and we didn't know how much time she'd have.
My God.
So she was old. She was an old dog, like 12 years old at this time. And so the song is me reminding myself there's still time to say goodbye to her before she passed. So it's really sad, but I found these old pictures of Maggie from when she was a
So
puppy.
cute, I'm actually crying.
That's me when I was, I think I was like 8 or 9 when we adopted her.
That's amazing. We're looking at photos here, some old
my
family
God.
photos. This is amazing. This is the kind of stuff you don't find on MP3 files. That's amazing. This one was labeled as well. Is this also related in some way?
So in the music video, basically we created this obstacle course, which was inspired by my sister's online education program. So she was in school, and they, like, for PE, they needed to keep the kids active, so they asked them to go in their garage and make an obstacle course and like run it. And we were like, "Wow, that's amazing!" And Katie was like, "That's a music video." So at the time, I was doing a lot of archery. My posture is horrible in this photo. Please don't judge me. But I was doing a lot of archery with recurved bows, and we decided to incorporate that as part of the music video. So we very safely, decided to include that. So it's in there. I'm not gonna say what happens. You just have to go watch it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, again, go head on over to theaccidentalsmusic.com, where you can check out the music video. We'll also post it in our show notes, the back catalog listeningparty.com. And holy cow, that looks like fun. Speaking of fun, it looks like a lot of people are tuning in here at the end of the hour. We have someone here that wishes they could join the panel, so you could talk together. And this might be a good time to mention that you do have a Patreon where folks could hang out with you on a regular basis. And at least what I read on your website is you offer a lot of really cool perks. I saw something about a trivia night and a book club. And I mean, man.
Throwback album review, too. That one's my favorite. We basically just talk about an album from like the 60s and onward, and just talk about what's great about it.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So if you do want to connect more and get on the next level with the Accidentals and all the things they have going on, head on over to patreon.com/theaccidentals, and you can learn more about that. And man, this hour has gone by so fast. I have a question. Do you guys have time to squeeze in one more?
Yeah, definitely.
Because if there's such a thing as a StreamYard Encore, let me gotta search through all of these notes. So that somebody said, play City View. And then we had a similar question here, or a question from the same person here about City View's hauntingly beautiful sounds and how brings them to tears. So it seemed like maybe that would be a good way to close out the show. But before we do, it looks like we have a question here. City View is hauntingly beautiful and brings me to tears almost each time I hear it, which is very inconvenient when driving. You guys have a gift for observation of life outside of just your age. And I think that's a great comment. And I would be curious a little bit about the literary side of your writing. We've talked a lot about the music, the arranging, and the instruments. But where do these words come from for you guys?
Well, first of all, you don't know how old we are, so we could be 100. You would never know. But as far as the literature, I think Kate and I do like what I like to call is like observational observational era, which is where you like watch a bunch of movies and you read a bunch of books and you listen to a bunch of music and you find the things that inspire you. And I like to write them down. And one thing that we teach in our songwriting workshops for kids is to like not be afraid to take an idea that you really like and change a couple things about it so it fits your personal experience. So that's one of the ways that we kind of approach finding the right words for what we're trying to say. I also cheat a lot, and I have rhymezone.com open and thesaurus.com open like the entire time. I have a Word doc, and I have my guitar, and Yeah, that's typically how I write my songs, at least.
City View was Ani DeFranco.
Yeah, so the other thing
Kind
I
of
forgot to
quote.
mention, not just movies and books and songs, but also conversations that people have or
Hmm.
things that people say. So City View came about because Anita Franco was doing a panel at Folk Alliance International with NPR's Ann Powers, and something that she said off the cuff ended up like driving the chorus of City View, which is beyond the eyes, the trains, and the angels. And she just said that like it wasn't something that she sat down and wrote ahead of time. That is just something that came out of her mouth in the moment, and I just thought it was so incredible. So this song came out of it, and it's about like personal experiences and a lot of the stories that we collected kind of in our travels. And um, you tend to see the same patterns and people kind of making the same mistakes and finding their way back up again. And I think this song was really written for anybody who's still struggling. It's for all of us on our own journeys headed towards the same destination. So
Awesome. Well, that's a great way to cap off our hour with the Accidentals. This is their tune City View here on the Back Catalog Listening Party.
There's something unnerving about the way nobody laughs when you peel back the past. Looking straight out in your hospital gown at the skyline that's staring right back. Birds on a wire, bloody sun, burning tires, all the baggage you haven't unpacked. People check watches, their movement so cautious, the beauty just falls through the cracks. Behind the eyes, the trains and the angels, the arrows and the marigold, the junk you never sold. All the laughter, the breath that comes after, the silvery voice in the wind, saying keep going, you'll find it again. Quarter life crisis, you crumble to vices, the bottle ends up in your hand. Glass on the ground as your engine breaks down, and the sirens scream out like the damned. Travel the country, your clothes are disgusting, the greyhound is running its race. Don't look in the window, 'cause you and I both know you can't bear to see your own face. Beyond the eyes, the trains and the angels, the arrows and the marigold, the junk you never sold. All the laughter, the breath that comes after, the silvery voice in the wind, saying keep going, you'll find it again. The birth of a daughter just makes you a father, like a crown of thorns makes you a king. The wedding was a fever dream, did it for your self-esteem, it melted the wax on your wings. It creeps in the corners, you keep looking forward, your daughter won't answer the phone. And who knew that leaving would just leave you bleeding, 'cause no one likes being alone. End of the line and you're seeing the signs, yellow eyes and a sense of relief. garden of memory and half of a century. You know now that time is a thief, and all of your apologies can't fix a tattered tapestry. The pain's woven in like a thread, and she will do great things, and you will be watching from your city view hospital bed, saying keep going, you find it.
The Accidentals with City View here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. We have been listening to their 2021 release, Vessel, and I want to give a big thanks to Sav and Katie for joining us for this wonderful hour of conversation, you guys. It's so fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today.
Thanks for having us on. This
Yeah,
is
this
great.
is such a great format. The show is so cool.
I mean, we could talk about this album for like 20 years. So
Yes,
and
I was ready for another hour of this, and it seems like other folks were. I want to send a big shout out to everybody who showed up today. Thank you so much. Sal just jumped in to thank you for your great music, 64 Carat as well, and so many of our regulars too. This show is really just about connecting, and your music connects with people, and people can connect here every week. So I want to give a big shout out to our Patreon community that keeps this show up and running. We started, Ellen and I started this, in March of 2020, just looking for connection, and music is one of the most powerful ways for that to happen. So I want to thank Penny, Ann, Alinda, Bevan, Connie, Vaughn, Alan, Chris, Becky, Galen, Joe, Jim, Beverly, and John, Fred, Tim, Sarah, David, Jocelyn, Court, Matt, Steve, Mark, the Homestead Pick and Parlor, Severin, Lynn, Jake, Mary, Many Tracks, Nikki, Joni, and David. Thank you so much for continuing to support us, and most of all, just thanks everybody for tuning in. This is what we do every week. Unfortunately, not every week with the Accidentals, because, man, maybe we'll have to get them back on the show for another listen, because so many interesting stories, and there's actually so much more I want to know about this album. So we can maybe find that out if we join their Patreon. Once again, they also have a Patreon that you can check out at patreon.com/theaccidentals. We'll have all of this information in our show notes at backcataloglisteningparty.com/145. Thanks everybody for being here. On behalf of my co-host Ellen, who she really tried. She was on vacation.
I'm here.
Oh, she's still here. Here's Ellen,
I'm
folks.
here on the phone. I'm just not on the screen. So yes, I just want to thank Katie and Steph for joining us, and all of you. I've been enjoying the music, and I had 20 million questions I wanted to ask, but we wouldn't have had time anyway because of all the great music and conversation. But thank you all so much for being here, and I wish I had a better internet connection. I'll pray more to the internet gods, in the future.
All right. Well, thanks again for spending this time with us, and thanks to everybody else out there for supporting independent musicians like the Accidentals. And make sure to go see them live when they come in a town near you. And until next week, we'll see you here on the Back Catalog Listening Party. Take care.